Why is Emilia Perez nominated for so many Academy Awards? Why aren't movies like Wicked and Dune Part 2 nominated for more? Who even votes for something like the Oscars? I'm going to do my best to give you a little context. The Academy of Motion Picture Arts and Sciences is made up of a bunch of different branches. Now, these branches can range from categories like writers, directors, and actors to things like artist representation, executives, even marketing. All these branches add up to over 10,000 members, and there's different rules for each of the branches on how to get in, but it's usually based on some sort of consistent involvement or achievement in that category. Then, for the 20 plus different awards, there's different rules for each category. For instance, in most of the feature film categories, the movie has to be over 40 minutes long. It has to be screened publicly for at least a week with 3 screenings a day, with one of those screenings being between 6 p.m. and 10 p.m., etc. So from a list of the eligible movies that year, there's a preliminary vote, which forms a shortlist. Then there's another round of voting where the shortlist becomes the official nominees. Now in these rounds, people would only be voting in their categories. So for instance, writers would be voting for best screenplay nominees. Then when it comes to the official nominees and who's actually going to win the Oscar, the entire Academy can vote for all categories. Most categories are determined by simple majority. Whoever gets the most votes wins. But that's not how Best Picture works. For Best Picture, the voters will rank all the nominees from their most favorite to their least favorite. And whichever movie gets over 50% of the votes wins. If a single movie doesn't get over 50%, then the least popular movie will be eliminated. People who voted for that movie as their top choice will have their second favorite vote counted. If their second ranked movie was also eliminated, then their third choice would count as their vote, and so on. Now there are a few things to keep in mind. Members of the Academy are not required to watch all of the nominated movies to vote. They are asked not to vote for movies they haven't seen, and they also don't have to vote in every category. They can choose to abstain if they want. Now if it's the Emmys or the Golden Globes or whatever, then the exact process of voting and who's voting is going to look a little bit different. For instance, the Golden Globes is voted on by journalists, and the Oscars is voted on by industry peers. The Oscars can sometimes end up being a little bit like your student body officer elections in high school. It's kind of a popularity contest because, of course, people are going to vote for their friends. Every year, The Hollywood Reporter publishes a few of these articles that are called Brutally Honest Oscar Ballots, where a member of the Academy, under the condition of being anonymous, will say exactly what they're going to vote like and why. And who knows, maybe what's said in these articles is meant to be inflammatory to affect and sway other voters, but regardless, it's hard to imagine people wouldn't be incredibly biased when they're voting for their own peers. But there's some other elements to award season that are more applicable across the board no matter what the award is. And it basically comes down to an FYC campaign. FYC stands for your consideration, as in, please consider voting for this movie for an award. This is basically like its own marketing campaign entirely focused on award voters. And studios will spend a lot of money on FYC campaigns. As just one recent example that there's been a lot of online discussion over, Emilia Perez was screened at the Cannes Film Festival. Netflix purchased the distribution rights for $12 million. It is now expected that they spent several times that on the FYC campaign alone. Even if award organizations were truly trying to determine the best picture of the year, it would be an impossible task because art is subjective. Ultimately, whether something resonates with somebody, Oscar voter or not, comes down to personal preference. But on top of that, there's the simple fact that award recognition converts into monetary value, which is why giant media companies care about winning. Whether they claim to care about award shows or not, the general public is much more likely to watch a movie if they've heard that it's gotten all these awards and accolades. Awards also lend a level of prestige to studios and filmmakers for their future projects, giving them immediate value. And those are just a few minor examples of the ways in which awards might affect a studio's bottom line. The point is, the company that paid for a movie very much wants it to win awards and will also pay for a marketing campaign aimed at doing just that. Now, if you don't live in LA or New York, you might not have ever seen an FYC ad campaign. Just picture the way it is during political campaigns where you're getting stuff in the mail, you're seeing stuff online, you're seeing billboards, and it's pretty similar. So when it comes to award season for the rest of us who are not part of any voting body, it's pretty easy to fall into one of two camps. You can think it's all nonsense because it's just a bunch of Hollywood insiders patting themselves on the back, or you can put a lot of value in it and be really angry that your favorite movie isn't getting nominated or winning. And I would argue that you don't have to be in either of those camps. As we've discussed, there's plenty of reasons to take these awards with a grain of salt. The Oscars never have been and never will be a perfect system for identifying what was the best cinematic piece of art of the past year. That said, I do think there is something of value in coming together and taking a look back at some of the best artistic contributions that have been put out into the world recently. Sometimes the award committees get it right and sometimes they get it wrong, but movies that were slighted can eventually triumph by standing the test of time. For instance, in 1999, Shakespeare in Love won the Best Picture award, beating out Saving Private Ryan, and decades later, it's pretty widely acknowledged that Saving Private Ryan is the more recognized, more respected, more well-known movie. Funny enough, Shakespeare in Love is actually one of the early examples of the modern FYC campaign, and it was championed by Harvey Weinstein, who of course is now widely known to be an absolutely disgraceful and evil person. But he was one of the original people behind the idea of doing essentially a political ad campaign to get movies awards. But for every Shakespeare in Love, you also have a Lord of the Rings story. Now, I could talk all day and into next week about Lord of the Rings, but I'm going to make sure to keep it simple. The Academy Awards have always struggled to recognize certain genres like horror, sci-fi, fantasy. For some silly reason, members of the Academy usually view these movies as lesser, more entertainment than art. That's obviously ridiculous, and The Lord of the Rings became one of the few movies to earn that respect in a profound way. It was nominated for 11 Academy Awards and won 11 Academy Awards, which tied it for most wins with Titanic and Ben-Hur. It also set a new record for the most amount of wins in a clean sweep. Also, fun fact, you'll see Harvey Weinstein's name in the credits for Lord of the Rings, but only because he was an owner of the company Miramax, which partially funded the development of Lord of the Rings until there were creative differences between them and Peter Jackson, after which the movie was sold to New Line Cinema. And it's been reported that this orc from the third movie was based off Harvey Weinstein. And also in the credits, there's these paintings going on behind people's names, and the paintings behind the Weinsteins are two trolls. Sorry for that side tangent, but anytime I get to talk about Lord of the Rings, I will. Point is, we can use award shows like the Oscars to engage in discourse about relevant and topical art. They don't have to be the end-all be-all. There's lots of movies that get nominated for awards that probably don't deserve it, and even more that don't get nominated for awards and do deserve it. Regardless, it makes for an interesting way to view and discuss the current cultural landscape. And on that note, I've watched all of this year's Best Picture nominees, and I'm planning to do a video for each one breaking down why I think it was nominated for Best Picture. So if that interests you, please stick around. As always, thanks for being here.